So good evening, everybody. Welcome to Story Time again. So this evening, let me share screen first. We can talk. So today I'm going to tell you a story about, it's called Emperor Janaka's Inception moment. So this is this is really about questioning what is real and what is not. Hi, Celine. And so the story is about, questioning what is real and what is not. Okay. And the play on that word inception, I literally mean the inception moment, okay? The one from the movie. So Emperor Janaka, King Janaka, he was a very, very wise ruler. So he was a very prosperous ruler. He was an emperor of many empires. He was actually also the father of Sita, the one that's linked to the Ramayana and Ram. And what he had done very well was he was able to merge the spiritual and the ruling part. So his material realm as well as the spiritual realm. So he was a very big spiritual student, and his kingdom was sort of very well run under him. It was had a good blend of prosperity and spiritual wisdom. And so as I said, yeah, he was the master of these two worlds. Yes, he did acquire a lot of material wealth, and that just came with the power and the authority he had, also his lineage. But beyond that, he was a deep spiritual student. And so this really translated in the way he ran his kingdom and the way he conducted his duties as well. And so then together with these two minds, his kingdom really flourished. And so one evening he had finished his dinner, probably was chicken curry or vegetable curry, I guess. And he had finished all his royal duties, and then he retreated to his royal chambers to sleep. And it was a beautiful moonlit night, and so the silver light was permeating through his room, and he was really enjoying this evening. And then he slowly drifted off into sleep, and his thoughts got heavier, and his breath got deeper, and he fell off to sleep. And he was suddenly awakened. He was suddenly awakened a while later. There was absolute chaos in the palace. The guards came in. Your Highness, we need to get you out of here. We're being attacked. The palace is under siege. You need to get to safety first and foremost, but we're being overthrown from all directions. And so he could hear these explosions and shouting and elephants trumpeting and walls crashing in and so forth. And unfortunately, King Janaka and his team, they were not prepared for this onslaught. It was a surprise attack, and by morning he was already captured. He was stripped of all his royal wear and given these coarse sacks to wear. And the invaders basically said, you know what, you're not welcome here anymore. You need to leave. We will let you live because you're a good king, but you're not welcome here. We've instructed everybody that nobody speaks to you, feeds you, no matter whatever goodwill you did to them. If they are caught helping you, they will be killed. Their families will be killed, and even their families will be killed. So, under this sort of severe threat, Janaka then left his kingdom. He could not speak to anybody. He could not solicit any help. And so he walked off into the wilderness, to the harsh terrain, wearing nothing but his coarse clothing and a stick. He wanders into these very harsh desert, very strong sun. His lips were cracked, his feet were cracked. He lost his voice. He could not speak because of the dust and the thirst. And in a moment of a day, that memory of him being an almighty king had almost all but vanished. His life of pamper and luxury had all just been a distant memory. And so there was a glimmer of hope. He reaches a village. It's a small little village, and he arrives exceptionally exhausted and desperate and hungry and all that. And most of the villagers are not prepared to extend any food, but he sees there's a food line where beggars are standing. So he stands in the line and he patiently waits and he patiently waits. And when he gets right to the front of the line, the guy says, you know what, we don't have much, everything is over here. Uh, so Janaka said, please, whatever you can do, I'll take it. So he basically pours some water into these big pots and scrapes up whatever lentils and rice he can, and he puts it into a bowl and says, well, here, this is the best I can do. And so Emperor Janaka, great wise ruler, accepts this humble bowl of food, tears in his eyes, and with absolute humility, he thanks the man and he walks off. And he goes to a small, a silent place, quiet place to sit down and eat this meal. And as he's about to eat, there's a bird that was watching him. It was sitting on a tree, a big crow, and the bird swoops down, and knocks off the plate, knocks off the lentils and the rice, drops it all onto the floor. And Emperor Janaka now he's just, this was the last straw. He's now in complete despair. He's hungry, he's tired, this nightmare is just going on and on. So he falls to his knees and he's thinking, please, you know, what happened here? What have I done? And he's simply just crying for his misfortune. And so he falls onto the floor and he falls into a void, into a deep, eerie silence. And he feels himself just floating into this void. And then suddenly he's awake. With a sudden jolt, he's back in his lavish settings, his opulent palace. Everything is familiar. His 18 servants are waiting for him. And as he's getting back from his disorientation, he's now confused. That dream was so real, so vivid, and he's actually he's totally confused. His mind is only caught on the fact that was so real, and unfortunately, he's now unable to rule his kingdom because he's plagued with just simply one thought, and that is in Sanskrit they say yes such ya wo such, which means was that true or is this true? Well, what is the reality? And so this is very much this dream within a dream scenario where Emperor Janaka he simply doesn't know what is reality anymore. He doesn't know whether uh, the dream he had was the reality. Is he an emperor that is had a dream as being a pauper, or is he a pauper having a dream as being an emperor? And he's really uh, taken aback by this current thought. And so through this, Emperor Janaka summons his very wise sage. His name is Ashtavakra. Unlike the picture there, Ashtavakra is actually a young boy. He's quite a young sage, and he's a very wise young sage. He's named Ashtavakra, means eight bends. Ashta meaning eight and Vakra meaning bends. And so essentially he's a child that's bent and twisted in eight spots. And this happened from a curse by his father, but that's another story for another day, uh, not for today. So after summoning the bent young sage Janaka, the king relates his entire story and poses this question which he doesn't know, what is reality? And so Ashtavakra asks him, he says, tell me, O wise one, or rather, this is Janaka, sorry, asking Ashtavakra, sorry for that. Tell me, O wise one, was that real or is this real? Was I a king dreaming I was a beggar, or am I now a beggar dreaming I'm a king? And so this was Ashtavakra's first question. So he said, O king, when you were in your dream, did you not feel hunger, thirst, fear, and the despair as if it were all real? And Janaka ponders this, the vivid nature of his dream and that vivid nature of his experience. And he said, yes, yes, he replied. Every emotion, I felt it all. I felt it was utterly real. Then Ashtavakra asks the second question. He says, and now you're sitting here in this palace. You are here with all your servants, all your wealth, all your success, all your everything. Is this real? Is this more real than your dream? And so Emperor Janaka did some silent contemplation. He thought deeply about the sage's questions. And upon reflecting all of this, he came to a sort of a minor realization. But then Ashtavakra then asked one more final question. He said, tell me something, O king. Who was it that witnessed both that dream and that waking state? Who was the unchanging I in both experiences? The one that experienced both the life of the king as well as the life of the beggar. And so in Ashtavakra's question to Ye Sach, Ya Wo Sach, Ashtavakra's answer was Na Ye Sach, Na Wo Sach, meaning, so in Janaka's question, is this true or is that true? Ashtavakra said, neither this is true nor that was true. You alone are the truth. You, the observer of both states, is the truth. And so Emperor Janaka had a time to ponder, and his moment of realization came where he realized that no, he's neither the beggar nor the king. That self of what he is that eternal essence that is beyond all form, that it's transcendental in all its nature, that what he truly is a pure consciousness, merely observing a state as a beggar and merely observing a state as a king. And so what he is the eternal silent witness, the observer of all, the silence underpinning the end of Om. Remember that point. And so this was the big breakthrough moment for Emperor Janaka, the realization that neither is true, neither this real waking state that appears so real, and nor does that dream state, which appears to be so real at that time. So in understanding the self, it goes back always to understanding the nature of the self, and that it transcends all identities and appearances. How it's described is like if you have a clay cup, a clay plate, or whatever, a clay ring. The forms that the cup and the ring and the bowl assume are the appearances. The only reality there is the clay. So you can, if you have a clay bowl, you cannot separate the clay and the bowl. The clay is the bowl. So you can take away the clay, but then the bowl, it doesn't exist anymore. And so the other thing you realize is that you are this unchanging awareness, the unchanging awareness that was aware in the dream state as well as the waking state, that you are this eternal presence. You are unaffected by states of dreaming, waking, and deep sleep. You are all of it, observing it all the time. And then eventually that you are that true reality, that perceiver of all perceptions. And so this just summarizes the story about, this waking and dreaming, and that Janaka realizes the illusory nature of both, and that the only truth is the self, that eternal self that observes all states. And as the king then understands that what we perceive as reality is not real, because it's changeable and impermanent, just like your dream, it simply cannot be reality. True reality is unchanging. And so this brings up this question of Maya, the concept of Maya, and I just want to cover it for a short moment, simply to give you a visual conception of how you need to understand it. And so you'll see in the background, I've got this ocean with the waves and the bubbles and all this motion on the surface. And so you have to understand it like this. Your mind is like the big, deep ocean, okay? Or rather, the universe is like the big, deep ocean. And that these waves and these bubbles are simply illusions within the ocean. When the ocean is still, the sort of waves and the bubbles and the motion disappear. So they are simply an appearance within the ocean. They do not exist by virtue of themselves alone. So simply this is how it's described, is that in this vastness, there's a fluttering, a vibration of an apparent reality. It's like the waves in the water, but it's simply just an illusion. So I think this is the last slide. So I guess the significance of this King Janaka's dream, it's very much a metaphor for our lives, and that we need to see through the illusory nature of existence, and it needs to serve as a sort of catalyst for your true awakening. So you need to have well, the next slide actually tells you that, which is you sort of in a dream inside another dream, and sort of they are both dreams, and one needs to wake up from both of them. And so this is very much also um, sort of that inception moment where you can have a dream inside a dream, and this is how our reality is explained to us by these most wisest of sages and so forth. And so, having said that, I'd like to say thank you from all of us, and that we are you, and that you are that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rahul.
Pleasure, please.
Very, very informative.
There's a bit of an echo there, okay? So, any comments, questions, anybody? If not, that's perfectly fine. It's only food for thought. If so, then I'm going to wish you all a happy evening. Have a good Thursday evening, and we look forward to speaking to you soon. There won't be a story time tomorrow and the day after because I'm traveling to South Africa, but I hope to resume the festivities on Sunday, perhaps. Okay.
I'd like Seelan's comments on a dream within the dream.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think we discussed this before.
Yeah.
About having a dream within a dream. But I think your basic principles still apply, right? Isn't it? One me,
Yes.
you are everything, and everything is you.
Correct. Correct.
Right. So if you stick to that, I think it's deeper than what you it's deeper than what you're actually saying a dream within a dream. It's way deeper than that.
It is, but you know, to first get the base message across, it's simply that, and
Yeah.
you know, yeah, it gets a little complicated than that, but more or less that is the basic message.
Yeah. So like I'm still thinking from the scientific principle, like if you look at time, space, theory of relativity, all of those things, like how does that fit into a dream within a dream?
So, Silan, my feeling is that our current science it doesn't have the right frame of reference at the moment. See, we haven't even fully incorporated consciousness into our scientific model. So we simply work on a purely matter universe, you know, with And so it simply will not compute because the current Western scientific model is far too primitive in its understanding. Until it's fully incorporated consciousness within the model, and for example, to understand that uh, it's not probably not a time-space universe that we work on, but it's a consciousness space universe we work in. That it's actually consciousness perceiving through space that we exist in, not time. Time is a result of consciousness. It's one of the perceptions of consciousness. So I think what I'm saying is that Western science far too immature in its understanding at the moment to have incorporated this thinking into its reality.
I think like a really good question is what was asked there. I mean, have you ever asked yourself, when you're dreaming, who's observing that dream? For me, that was a great question.
Okay, yeah. And Viz, that's the same principle in the Mandukya Upanishad, is that they're saying, you know what? Even during your waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, all three states, there's something else that's observing all three states. What is that? That is what you are. And it's not the movie itself, it's the screen upon which the movie is happening. That's like how you need to understand yourself. And based on that, no matter how many explosions happen in the movie, it simply doesn't affect the screen upon which the movie is being played on.
I think for me, the better thing is who's witnessing it, but who's creating the dream?
There's only one, the self.
You. Yeah.
Let
So,
yourself.
Yeah,
so whether it's a reality or whether it's a dream, it's all whatever you, I don't want to say manifest, but whatever you create, whatever you put forth.
Yeah.
And you yourself are your own limitation then.
Yeah. So Gina, the way I sort of try to understand it is this, is that, you know, when you're playing a game of Monopoly, okay? So you can be the all supreme Dina in a normal day, okay? But when you're playing a game of Monopoly, you have to play the rules of the game. You know, okay? And so similarly, whilst you might be the all supreme one, everything, the moment you engage in the game of material world or universe, whatever you're, then you are subject to a set of rules in that game. And one of the rules of the game is to be put into a state of illusion, to believe that it's real. Otherwise, if you knew that was not real, the game is up. If you know what I mean. So it's almost one of the objectives of the game. It's one of the shortcut codes in the game, is to understand, no, there is a shortcut here. The moment you realize, you know what, this is all one being having one massive party, it's almost the game is up.
Okay.
Any other questions, peeps?
So, Rahul, I've been trying to understand and digest what you just said now. I'm kind of like absorbing everything because it's like, I don't know, unimaginable, this topic. But for me, I think when we dream, and it's like what Dina has been saying, it's your thoughts. And when that question was asked, is like when you are in a dream, it's so real. You don't see yourself in a dream. You see other people or whatever, other objects, but you don't actually see yourself, because in a dream it is so real.
Yeah.
I think I'm still trying to understand, Rahul.
So this is the question. In that dream, who's feeling the emotions? So, you know, sleeping Jerushni and waking Jerushni are two different people. Because if sleeping Jerushni knew of waking Jerushni, then no, the game is up as well. Because you know, no, this is a dream, because I know exactly where waking state Jerushni left everything. And this is a dream. But because they're two separate personalities together, they sort of don't know what the one is doing and the other is not doing. However, there's a third entity which is observing both those states. And that is what you need to observe. It's how they say you have to observe the observer. So the one other way, Rushni, is they say you have to understand the subject and the object. Okay. And so if there's a mobile phone, it's an object. I am the subject because I can observe it. It can't observe me, I can observe it. And then you can take it with the body. So if you can say I can observe this body, then the body is not the subject. Then you take it to the mind. Can you observe your mind? And then you realize, oh no, I can observe my mind. So my mind is not the subject, it's an object. Can I observe my mind, observing my mind? Yes. And then you keep doing this until you realize that at the very end, there's just one subject and everything else is an object in its creation. And the other one is, they say when you go into a dream, like everything is created immediately. All the people, all the doors, the houses, the walls, the floor, everything is created. Everything is you. You created it all. And similarly, in the waking state as well, all the infrastructure, it's almost like a shared reality. We are all creating it all the time. This is why it's in such superfine, crystal clear reality, and that there's continuity in this waking state. But the dream state, there's non-continuous because it's happening within your head.
I don't know if any of y'all have ever experienced this. Like, I feel sometimes like, when I say deja vu, it's a dream. And somehow I feel like things are familiar. Like I've had this experience before.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's ever felt that way.
And I think everybody can attest to having that. Simply because you are immortal, you've had so many experiences. At least for me, I know I've had it before. These very deja vu-ish experiences where you've felt you've been there,
Yes,
all that. Yes,
it's very familiar.
yes.
I think we've all had that. Just
Yeah.
that you don't feel. Oh, yeah, I've certainly had that.
I just want to say, I'm getting up now from my dream.
Okay. Excellent to hear. One more dream, get up from.
But talking of dreams, I mean, Jiroshni, I'm just saying you do have a good subject with you for dreams.
Am I the subject or the object?
It doesn't feature in my dreams. I'm joking, Dee. I'm joking.
That silence is sadness. That's what I know, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I still have to go to bed. I'm in the kitchen. I'm brave.
Well,
Yeah.
you were saying something, Jirushni?
I think it's I feel I still feel I'm going to think about whatever you said now. So I'm still digesting everything. Yeah, that's where I am right now.
Okay. Yeah. So that illusion of Maya, that's a very big concept at least in Vedanta philosophy. This illusion of Maya. And there's another story I need to tell you. Yes, Gina, I've got plenty of stories, but there's a story of Sage Narada. He asked Krishna about, explain to me about Maya. And I don't know if I should tell the story now or leave it for another separate story time. But it deeps dive into this illusion of Maya, which is pretty interesting.
Is it a long story?
You want to hear?
Everybody's tired.
Okay, I'll tell you. I'll give you the short version of it. Okay.
Mhm.
So Sage Narada is he's a very great sage, and he's also a very big devotee of Lord Vishnu, Narayana. So when Krishna was incarnated on Earth, he came to visit Krishna one day, and so they were having a deep discussion, and he asked Krishna, he says, "Can you explain to me the power of this Maya?" He now Narada he had spent many eons on Earth and studying the world, and he thought he fully understood this illusion of Maya. And so then Krishna said, "Okay, come on, let's go for a walk. We're going to the desert." And so they took a walk into the desert, and they walked for quite a while. And it was hot and it was dry, and they were approaching a village as well, somewhere in the desert near an oasis. So Krishna said, Narada, so they were going to discuss this topic of Maya, and so and Krishna said, I'm happy to discuss it. We'll start immediately, but first I'm feeling very, very thirsty. Can you please get me a glass of water?" So Narada then runs off. He sees that village up in the distance, and he runs off there. And he gets there and he sees there's a well there, and so he asks the people around, "Can you help me?" And as he's busy with all this, he sees this woman, and she's absolutely beautiful, and he can think of nothing else. And his mind was taken away about how beautiful she was. So he goes up to her and they speak, and they find that they were like star-crossed. They were just in tune with each other. And so Narada was in love with her, and he asked her to marry him, and they got married, and they had 3 beautiful children. And Narada loved looking after them. He loved taking them to fish or whatever they needed to do. And one day a massive flood hit the village, and it wiped off. It was just wiping off buildings and homes and roofs, and Narada and his family had to climb up onto the roof of their house. And with this flooding water, one of his youngest child falls into the gushing waters and drowns and dies. Then a second child, then the third child. Then his wife succumbs to the deluge. The piece of wood she was holding onto broke, and she went into these gushing waters. And Narada is sitting, he's shaking and crying and sobbing passionately. And then in the distance, he hears this echo, "Narada, where's my water? I'm thirsty." And so Narada then realizes that the entire thing was an illusion, and that it was the demonstration of how powerful Maya was, that in a couple of minutes, and only a few minutes had passed, when Krishna was able to wrap over that illusion of Maya and demonstrate the power of Maya to him. So that's the story there, Chirushni.
Okay.
So the illusion of the real world is very quick. Even if you have clarity of mind of who you are and what you are, the moment you get back into the real world, it's very easy to revert back to just, normal day mode.
Rajas.
Yes, Rajas.
Thank you,
Wait,
Rao.
moral of the story, you must know when to Dala.
Thank you, Rao.
Yeah, you got
We
stories.
had to start.
I have a
But there's a Friday
But
night.
Dashni,
but I'm gonna
Dashni's got a question.
Via you. So, what are we supposed to do with this information? What can we practically do with this information?
Which one? The story of
No, the first. How do we apply it practically?
So the story, whilst it's quite simple, it's actually a very, very deep story, Dash. You need to almost chew on it for a long, long while. And it comes with then applying that knowledge. So once you know better, you then apply it and you realize, you will see the illusory nature of this existence here. And you realize that it's more and more game-like than a reality. And remember, our journey is about a journey to self, the realization of self. And so what Ashtavakra is saying is, yeah, in the journey of self, you're not going to find any realization of benefit in the waking world, and you're not going to find any benefit or realization in the sleeping world. You have to, it's not found there. Self is found somewhere else. And as our journey progresses to self, these stories will make more sense. But I think give it time to process. Like with all these stories and discussions, they take a long time to settle in the mind. It's not as immediately I got it. Yes, the first point we get, I guess, the story, but it takes a long time to settle in. And so you have to almost like spend time pondering the story and understanding that these two states that you think is so real, so real, you put so much of effort, emotion, energy into it, simply to understand that no, nobody's getting hurt here. Nobody's dying. Nobody's getting injured. It is simply a game of immortality playing immortal game with itself. And when you understand that, then you don't take things so seriously as well. When a loved one passes away, it's not as shattering when you think it's only one life, only one go, and I'm never going to see this person ever again. It's a bit more comforting, I guess, when you understand the immortality of yourself.
Yeah, because I guess a lot of people put so much of emphasis on loss.
Yeah.
And create their own trauma.
Yeah. And it's not just even like human loss. It could be even monetary loss. You have people killing themselves over money,
Yeah.
It's it simply doesn't compute.
Yeah.
I was thinking about what Jiroshni also said about like deja vus, right? So has anyone had a deja vu? And then I guess another thing to say is anyone, like, I don't know if you watch Inception or your dream state, right? Have you been able to ever try and control, or have you controlled your dream?
So I'm going to let everyone else answer these because I know
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has anyone tried to control their
I
dream?
think I've had a dream where I consciously then said to myself, hang on, you're dreaming, wake up. And I stopped the dream. And it was vivid for me because I actually still remember the dream. But it was a point where in that dream, I said, stop, this is just a dream. And wake up. Is that what you're asking?
A little bit more. That's like stopping the dream. Like, have you ever tried to turn ever realized, like, let's just say you realize, hang on, this is a dream. Then instead of waking up, you said, okay, let me walk over and switch the light on in this room.
So, Dina, step 1, realize it's a dream. Step 2, control the dream, not stop the dream.
Okay.
So, Viz, I know you've had this. It's called lucid dreaming, and I know you've had this this experience, right, Viz?
Many times, yeah.
Yeah, and it's lucid dreaming. Many people can do it, but many of us also find it difficult for whatever reason. But it is a real thing. It's like astral traveling, lucid dreaming. You can also learn. You can learn the technique and the tools to lucid dream, where you can change your dream to suit you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, it comes back to some of the other stories we were talking about. We spoke about Om and frequency. I I won't say I was obsessive, but I was like really enjoying controlling dreams. And what I found was you can just put on YouTube lucid dreaming music, and it's about frequency. You know what I mean? You listen to these different, they call them binaural beats, and it's just like frequencies that just play, and you can listen to them for 6 hours, or you can put earphones on while you're sleeping,
Yeah.
and it seems to stimulate like this more of lucid dreaming.
But Viz, what's the objective and purpose of it?
Exactly my question.
Eventually, it's like going back to even that mentioned, I think that statement we mentioned yesterday. At the end of the day, what does it achieve?
I think actually it's more like trying to block out your thoughts with more noise, isn't it? Sort of more along that lines, like we said about sitting in silence. Isn't that not doing exactly the opposite?
That's my feeling as well. So it's essentially how it's described is the universe is a mental construct. So as the mind is firing, it's creating this universe, okay? And so you have the external universe that the outward facing mind creates, and then you have your internal universe that the inward facing mind is creating. But both of them, as long as there's fluctuations in the water, the vibration of Om, you're going to get the illusion. So as long as you have desires, you're going to have sort of ripples in the waking world, and then that also then reflects in your dreaming world. So the trick is to have neither. You almost need to be as still as the water surface. And so whilst the lucid dreams are fun and infinite and different realms and different everything else, once you've watched all the series on Netflix, then what? You've just simply watched all the series on Netflix. Then what? And it still doesn't answer the question, have you found what is reality? And I would guarantee you that no matter how much of lucid dreaming you do, it's not going to be the place where you find the real reality.
Or yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's the capital letter S. That's the reality I'm referring to. Yes.
But do you think that's true, Raul? Because
100%.
is it?
Yeah. At least from the definition of what I understand from the Mandukya, when they say, you know what, in deep sleep, man creates no dream and has no desire and creates no dream. And that's the only state in your deep sleep, in the darkness, where your mind is not creating a dream, whether it's a waking state dream or a dreaming state dream. It's an absolute stillness. And that's the only spot where, well, you can't do it while you're sleeping, but you have to take your conscious mind there through meditation. You have to almost take it to a state of deep sleep and then beyond. But being
So what does it mean if you don't dream?
I think don't dream is very good because it means you don't have too many desires. So no unfulfilled desires are manifesting in if you didn't do something, you never fulfilled something, you have that desire which manifests itself in a dream. So a very mind like V's will have a lot of dreams simply because he's very active in his normal day, and those ripples have to have an equal and opposite vibratory string, and then they vibrate in his inner world.
But isn't it possible that, or isn't it scientifically proven that we all dream? We just don't always remember.
Yeah.
We don't remember our
As a
dreams.
human, it's part of our, I don't know, it's I don't think we don't dream.
It would have been really nice to listen if Ravi was here.
Yeah.
You know, I know he's got quite a lot of insights into like dreams and stuff like that.
Different types of sleep.
Sleep.
REM and then deep.
I think the thing is though, like I think we all are masters of this waking world. You know what I mean? If you really had to like kind of say that most of us are happy and content in this waking world. And I think you're absolutely right, Rahul. It's not in the waking world, it's not the sleeping world, it's in that period. Have you ever asked yourself what's going on? Where are you? When you're not awake, you're not dreaming. Where are you? Right? And for me, I think what I'm trying to say is this waking world, everyone's an expert, but it's a journey. So for me, like, I mean, I haven't lucid dreamed in a long, long time, but it was also to show you the other side. And I feel you need to know both sides before you can maybe venture into that deep sleep where nothing occurs. You know, you have to have an understanding of both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this brings me back to my original question that isn't this conversation oscillating between science and consciousness?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
But so, and Srinath, what I found, at least from the Vedic sciences, is that their science and consciousness is intertwined into one. And it's not only that, it's science, the spirit studies, as well as art is melded into one. So if you take, for example, that Nataraja, you know, the dancing Shiva, it is a artistic thing, it's a philosophical thing, it's a scientific thing, as well as a spiritual thing, all melded into one. So for them, there was never a distinction between science and spirituality. It was exactly the same, because science was almost the action of spirit. It's the behavior of spirit. I mean, you understand the rules of how spirit operates, and there are very few basic rules. Then that's the way it operates.
Interesting.
For me, from whatever I've studied, at least on the Vedic side, most of it has been scientific. They were talking next generation science, but really all scientific. As you saw with the breathwork guys, I mean, you saw all the things we learned. So all got a very, very scientific underpinning and very focused on achieving just one outcome, that realization of self. Ashwant is messaging. We're still on. Let's see if we can get him to join quickly.
You're still recording?
Yeah, let me stop the recording maybe.